If you're going to take on this project, I highly encourage you to watch the entire series, or not series, I guess, watch all of the video all the way to the very end, and make sure that you have the ability to see all the mistakes I overcame, hurdles that you might have to work through. There's a lot of important things in there, so I encourage you to watch the entire video before you purchase any materials and make any decisions on anything. With that, let's get to work. I apologize for the background noise. I got a neighbor doing some yard work. I'll catch you up on what I was doing. I went ahead and glued all the panels in place, and then I went ahead and sanded them down. I just did the 80 grit like I did the other sides, with the exception of this. I'd finished that side. Now we're moving on to the last few stages here. We're talking about hardware and trim. And what I mean by trim. So the black borders that you see is actually angle aluminum, and just got it at Home Depot. I think it was like 13, 14 bucks. It should be up here. But we're going to cutting those. I'm not going the full height. As you can see, I want to go ahead and leave enough gap at the bottom where it's not going to scratch a floor, for instance, and at the top where it's not going to get caught on anything. So there's just a little bit of wood left over. That's fine. That's how I want it. So I just left it basically 1/8 of an inch shy of what this actual measurement is, which is 20 inches, right? But if you just cut it short, then you'll be able to manipulate it. Yay! So I'm going to cut 4 of these, and the worst part actually is removing the stickers. So if you got some Goo Gone and then some rubbing alcohol, it helps to clean that up. But so cut 4 of those using your hacksaw. Hacksaw. And then just make sure when you're done doing that, that you take a file and you file off all of the sharp edges. I don't want the little ones getting cut. So go ahead and do that. Okay, once you have them cut to the correct length, then you're going to take a light grit, like 150, and you want to sand all the surfaces, get all the edges, the ends, get it all covered. It helps to sometimes do it in light and reflect, and you'll be able to see if you've missed any areas. The reason why this is important is because we're going to go ahead and paint these, and we want to give the best chance for the paint to adhere. And then I've covered these, I covered the center section. This is where the epoxy is going to go, so that when I spray the edges, that it doesn't get down there. I want bare metal contact. I want bare metal to wood surface contact. Then next, it comes down to what do you want to use for your nails, or if you're going to use the studs or whatnot. I mean, you could just go ahead and paint it black, and put it on, and you're done. Or you can use rustic nails, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. They're actually called Decortax upholstery brass finishing. So they're used for upholstery, evidently. But what I've done now is I decided that I wanted to put in 4 studs, okay, or 4 of these nails. So if you look, I went ahead and put these dark dots right here. And for me, if you're going to follow what I'm doing, for 1.5 inches up, 1.5 inches down, and then from these 5 5/8, 5 5/8. And then I transferred that to this. And how I did that was this is 1.25 inches. If you're going to use this same one, just find the center. Well, half of that is 5 5/8. So I just set my combination square to 5 5/8 and drew a line down the center on all 4 pieces. Then from there, I transferred over those 1 inch and 5 5/8 marks to this. I took the punch and I punched each hole. The reason being is I want this to be as uniform as possible. I want to be down the straight. I don't want a stud here and then the next stud down is just a little over or something. I want them to look nice and uniform. Sure, back in the day they probably weren't, but that's how I want to do it. So, so then the next thing that you do is, since I chose these studs, let me show you one of these. So this is what it looks like. It's just basically a nail. It's got a nail tip on it, and the reason why I chose it was because of the looks, for one, and then number 2, it's got a nice small nail head, and that 1/16 will allow, 1/16 hole will allow this to go right through. You want to stay away from the top or the bottom edges. And the reason being is because you're going to be nailing. So I didn't choose to put one here because I'm afraid that if I do that, I might just end up, splitting the wood. So try to stay away from doing that. So if you put the studs in, stay well away from the edges, and you'll be successful. So like when it comes to this, I'll probably just put one here. I don't think I want to go with two, but so these studs will also help secure it. It'll be epoxied on the middle, and then once that's in, the stud will tack that down. So go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go straight to painting right now. So with these put in place, as you can see, I'm intentionally leaving little gaps, but then they'll overlap, and we can't have that. So we're going to have to cut out, be strategic, and cut out pieces that are going to be, parallel to where the other pieces are. So that's going to be a little bit of a project, and intentionally, like this one here, leaving about 1/8 of an inch gap. So something like that. Yeah, I tried to saw that. It's not easy sawing with a hacksaw in a straight line, but I think I can file off this tip here and even it out. Regardless, it's a custom fit. Now, make sure that when you do this, I haven't labeled it yet, but make sure that you label the inside of this so that it, and then label this too, so they both correspond. So when you go to put them on, you put the tape over it, you paint it, etc. The label will still be on there, and you'll be able to identify where this one goes. All right, let's see if we can catch this. So for the side pieces, what I ended up doing is I eyeballed what I thought would be center. I'm not really super concerned about it as long as it looks good as far as from the top and the bottom. Obviously, we're still coming in 5/8 of an inch for all of them. But I eyeballed it what I thought would be center. Then, going from this side here, I actually started at the top here, and I said, all right, I want to come down 2 inches and then another 2 inches and then squared across, and that looks pretty good. When it comes to the ones on the top here, I came down 3/4 of an inch, came up 3/4 of an inch, and then just went in the middle, so 2.5, because this measures out basically 5 inches, and 2.5 in the middle. So then the top one here. So the top we're going to do the same. Top we're just going to do 1 inch and 1 inch from each end, and I still got to do it from this front. But yeah, that's the gist of it. And now I just got to drill them, sand them, and then paint them. So I almost botched this when I drilled the hole here. Let's see, where is that? Right there. When I drilled the hole on these, I did not accommodate for where these were at. I did for the top ones and for the side ones, but didn't on these end pieces. So what I've done now is I've taken and I've numbered the inside of these. So like, oops, that's the 4. So here's the number 3, and I've made an arrow on which way it goes. So now it'll just accommodate it, and you can see where I've drawn the pencil line there, the pencil dot just to the top right of the 3. So it'll just be under the screw. So keep that in mind when you do yours. Don't forget to orient those, or at least adjust where that pin, where that stud is going to end up going. I'm just going to clear it. So try not to make the same mistake I did. Next step before we go on to the final sanding is to put on the hardware, or not put it on, I'm sorry, at least mark the locations and pre-drill the locations of the hardware. So we're talking the side handles. These are what I've chosen. You can do whichever. Again, I'll include the prices for these. And the hinges, everything is off of YouTube, as well as a slow closing hinge. I'm not quite sure how that's going to install yet, but we'll find out. And the front hasp, and actually it goes this way, but the front closing hasp for the lock mechanism as well. So let's at least draw those out where we're going to want them, and pre-drill the holes. The first step is to put your lid on exactly where you want it. It's, unless you were like an incredible craftsman at this point, like I am not, the lid is not a 100% perfect fit. there's maybe like 32nd to a 16th of an inch just overlap here and there, so it's not perfect. Get it where you want it first, because once you put the hinges on, you're not going to be able to move that, and then the lid's going to have to open and close based off of that. So line this up exactly how you want it first. Once you get that there, don't move it again, and put your location for your hinges. At least mark those up. This is where you may want to choose to get your own hardware. The screws that came with these are 1-inch long screws. It came with both the hinges as well as the handles. And you can see that even coming through the opening, one of the openings for the hinge, that's about 1/8 of an inch of material. And you can see we still got just over 1/16 of an inch that's left over of the wood. And I have not planed this. This is just an end piece from the wood that we've been using. And then what I've taken is 1/16 drill bit, and I've locked it into my chuck so that it'll just come to the edge itself. So I'm still leaving myself about 1/8 of an inch of play. I'm hoping that this won't protrude. If it does, we'll have to figure out a fix. But let's just see what it does. I'm going to start out with the lid and see what we go from there. What I did for the hinges was I eyeballed about where I wanted it from here. As far as the height goes, it's just the center of the hinge itself on where the mating of the lid and the bottom are. And then lining that mark up, this ended up being 5 inches for me. Line that up there, and then just marking the holes, and then I took my punch and punched them. So now we're going to take our drill that we've set up with the 1/16 drill bit, and we'll drill them and we'll secure the hinges and see what we get. Slight modification to the plan. You don't need to make sure that this is perfectly aligned at the very beginning. It's just going to mess you up. You're going to be trying to correct it all the time. So just go ahead and secure the top portions of these first. Make sure that they're definitely straight. You don't, because if they're crooked, it's not going to open and close right too. So put these top ones on first, secure those. Once those are secured, then go ahead and line the top exactly where you want it. Then lower the hinge down, mark the locations, punch them, drill them, secure them, and voila. So you see, it opens and closes very nicely, stays aligned, that's good. Obviously it can keep going back, but that's the point of having that slow closing hinge, or it will be the point of it. As you can see, the screws did not come through on either portion, so bonus. So we're good on that. And so now we'll end up putting on the handles on the sides. And then once we've got all that aligned up, along with doing that front locking mechanism, like we said, we'll do that. Once all that stuff's set up, then it's just a matter of taking all the hardware back off, sanding it down, finishing painting, and then we'll end up putting a polyurethane coating on. And for the handle, so what I did was I found the center of this here, and for me it was like 8 and 13/16. So then also from the top of the box itself down is about 3 inches. Not about, it is 3 inches. And that is to where I want this part right here, the tip of that. So I'll just put that in there. And then I center punched that hole. What I will do is I will go ahead and I will drill this hole. I will put the screw in. I won't completely secure that screw. I'll make sure that it's aligned correctly. It's parallel, I should say. And then I'll mark these other holes, and these other 4 holes, drill them and secure those. We should be good to go. I am not completely sold on this locking mechanism. You can open it up just by grabbing the edges, obviously, and lifting it up. But the reason why I'm not sold on this is it looks like it was made for something much smaller than this and a lot less heavy. And I say that because if I were to put this on from where the screw holes are to the bottom lip of the box, there's not a whole lot of material there. I just don't like it. What I might end up doing is, this is for my grandson. If he or my daughter or husband don't like it, or that I should say if they want one, I can try to find one that will fit it. For right now though, because I'm crunched on time, I'm not going to put this on, and I'm not going to order a different one unless again that's what they want. I can always install that later. That's no big deal. I feel that after time and time again of probably grabbing this hasp right here to lift this up, it's going to put a lot of pressure on those screws, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on the wood, and it's just going to split it out. I'd rather have something that's secured at least a ½ inch of material up as well as down below. So if I find something, maybe I'll install it later on, but for this project right now, I'm not going to put one on. Wow, installing this was more difficult than I thought it was going to be, only because the instructions are literally that small, and if you have my vision, it's not the greatest, and there's not a whole lot of clarity on them. I tried watching YouTube videos. There are a couple of them for this brand, which I'll include on here. Once installed, I mean, it works great. Look at that. I mean, you're not going to pinch any fingers that way. So that works great. But trying to figure out where everything goes is a whole different story. And I had to hand cut out a chunk of wood just so that I could get it to close, because the orientation of this, I couldn't find any that had a side type ones that would attach to this. So this is what I ended up having to go with. It's not fully installed yet. I've still got a screw to put in the center hub, but I wanted to at least share with you the dimensions if you're going to use this self-closing hinge. So first and foremost, I started out by cutting a block that was 4 inches long by 3 inches wide in order to fit in there. And the orientation of these things is definitely different. So to figure out where this needed to go, so by the instructions, like I said, it was in millimeters. So what I ended up doing was converting everything. So basically, this center post right here is 1 3/4 inches down. Then from the back of the box, coming over and then down, was 3 inches, 3 13/16 inches down. So that gives us the very center of this, and then there's some R's and some L's that are stamped onto the top of this plate. Just make sure that the first L that's closest to this post is facing up. Once you have this installed, that'll tell you then where the R needs to go. That'll tell you where this little plate needs to go. So I then just marked it on here, knowing where it needs to go. Took this piece right here and I secured it, glued it, secured it, and then that just gave it to me. So now it's just a matter of, it's real simple installation. Pop that on, and you're good to go. Now I will remove all of this hardware. I will give it one good sanding over. I'm going to install the skull and crossbones before I go ahead and polyurethane coat it. I can stay well enough away from it. There's some good borders there. Ooh, still got some, I'll have to clear out some of this extra waste that's still there too. I'm going to leave my markings. That's where I know where those plates are going to go. So I'm going to sand all this down, and the next time that you see it, it will have the skull and crossbones on it. It'll have the skull and crossbones on it. The polyurethane coating will be done, and we will have reattached the hinges and the handles, and we're going to press on with installing the painted trim that goes around it, and that'll complete it. Once you've sanded everything to the final grit that you're going to go, I went 150 on mine. Any stray pencil marks, any kind of dings in the wood, anything like that you want to get rid of that. Don't dig in with your sander, go nice and even with it. Then take a microfiber cloth, or actually take a broom, dust everything off, your workbench included. Once you're done with that, take a microfiber cloth and wipe every single surface down, including the interior, because you're going to be putting polyurethane on it. You want it to adhere. And what I always do is take some naphtha. It's basically, I mean, you could use, it's kind of like paint thinner. I always wear gloves when I do it, but when you put that on there, for one, it'll show you how beautiful it's going to look. The other thing it'll do is if there's any like wood glue that's sticking out, you'll be able to see it in the seams. It'll help you be able to gain a better perspective on what it is that you're going to be treating, as well as a finished product, and get up any kind of loose debris that's left over. Once you've done that, it's ready for your coating. I'm going to do 3 coats of polyurethane, maybe 4. We'll see. One last note. Well, first and foremost, scratch that. I decided before I glued that skull and crossbones down that I do want to get some polyurethane in there, otherwise it'll be a wood mismatch as far as tone goes. It's not a whole lot of gap there, but I want it to look uniform. And then the other thing is, if you decided to use MDF, make sure that you tape down the bottom of it. I've had bad experiences with MDF. I use it on my top of my work surface because, you know, I don't care about it, so I can remove it anytime, put a new sheet down. But what I have noticed is whenever it gets wet, it'll bubble up because it's not normal wood. I mean it is, but it isn't, right? So I would not take the chance with polyurethane. I would go ahead and cover the whole bottom with a sheet of plastic and tape, and then use the polyurethane on the inside of it, and try not to get it on the bottom. We've reached the final phase, and that's putting these studs in that I've already kind of started here. I went ahead and just epoxied the trim on. I put the handles back on, the hinges back on. I did order and get in, as you can see, that the hasp for the lock, and we've got a nice slow closing lid, so that'll be nice. And the only thing left to do, like I said, is to put in these studs. So let's get on with that. Preferably using a soft face mallet, wood mallet, something along those lines, and that's just so you don't mark up the rivet head. Although I don't know, it may not even mark it up. But I'm just using needle nose pliers in order to hold it where I need to, and I'll just pop it in one of the holes here, get it started, and finish it off. That's all there is to it. And that'll do it for this project. It turned out beautiful. I really love the look of aromatic cedar, the black trim, and like the little detail touch. I think it went very well. I hope your project goes well for you too. Thanks for watching.